I started, this well-being program, and so I would get put on the spot rather often in front of partners that I work day to day, and they'd be like, Sabrina, tell us about your passion for mental health, and I'd have to be like, well, once upon a time, there were these things, and here I am, and you know me, and all these things, but the reason I am me is because I've had to go through all of that. Hi, my name is Sabrina Quinn, and I have experience as a caregiver for my mother who has borderline personality disorder and severe depression, and I also have lived experience with generalized anxiety disorder and bouts of depression as well. My first experience with mental illness was when I was 14 because I lost an uncle to suicide. But I would imagine that, like many families, I did not fully grasp what mental illness was or, what the impact of suicide and trauma was because as a family, we did not really discuss it. But my real journey with understanding mental illness began when I was in college and coming home and seeing my mom, who was going through a difficult divorce at the time, and I could just tell that this woman who had been my rock and my best friend for so many years, I could see changes in her that were marked differences in her personality and her approach to the world. So after a few years of noticing those changes, she did have her first suicide attempt when I was 22. I was the person who found her and took her to the hospital. And since then, in the last 17 years, she's had more suicide attempts than I could even count. We lost count, around 7 or 8 hospitalizations. Part of that journey was learning how to be a healthcare warrior on her behalf and navigating all the nuances with healthcare assistants and doctors and navigating differences between some of her physical health challenges as well, and really trying to advocate for the reasons that she was there in the first place, working through a number of different diagnoses that didn't really feel right to what we were seeing day in and day out. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with my daughter and I had really become quite firm in this purpose that I had, which was to be my mom's caregiver and keep her safe. I felt very strongly that it was my responsibility to keep her not only alive, but also off of the streets. I started to struggle with my own purpose and identity because becoming a mom, I knew that my sole purpose would really have to be to take care of my daughter then and now my son since he was born. It was around that same time that she got the borderline diagnosis, which felt like incredible validation because once I understood what borderline personality disorder was, it was like someone knew exactly what our family had been going through and we could put a name to it and understand what the next steps were. But at the same time, I was also now raising 2 little kids and married and building my own career. And I started struggling with anxiety, panic attacks at work. I stopped being able to sleep at night, which many people around me would say it was because I had a newborn son. And of course I'm not sleeping, but I knew it was something else. And so it was only in the last couple of years and through my volunteering with NAMI and seeking community and also bringing my authentic self into my work and building mental health programs and well-being programs that I've really taken stock in the fact that you can only give what you have and that, my caregiving has to start with me in terms of self-care and just investing in the things that make me feel whole, and only then can I give back to my family what they need. Some of the symptoms that I've seen that people just don't talk about, and probably what made the diagnosis for BPD difficult, are first and foremost splitting. I have a sister, and so for so long, we couldn't understand the context of why one of us was always a savior and the other one was always positioned as the enemy. And we could feel that we were being kind of pitted against each other, and it became challenging for our relationship because we would find out some different things that were shared and, varying contexts and background. But once I got that deeper understanding of what BPD is and that splitting is actually a very common symptom, I understood it and I could see where it was happening not only with my sister, but even with my husband, with other parts of relationships in our family. And it also really gave life to some of the other struggles I could feel that I was having with my family members and taking care of my mom. The second symptom that I think people do not talk about enough with borderline personality disorder is the addiction that comes with it. My mom, growing up, I would have never described her as someone with any addictive traits. And I think that's part of the challenge, was watching her over the years, get very reliant on alcohol, reliant on her medical marijuana, but also spending and a need for different material things and never feeling satiated with, the acquisition of different material objects. But once I understood that, there is a component of addiction and some more addictive traits with BPD, I understood why she was doing that and why some different things that we could do to help her. And we also really started to put a name to it as well and talk about alcohol and drinking, and it helped us create new boundaries that I don't think we would have had the strength to speak out loud had I not known that addiction was part of BPD. The third thing that I don't think that people talk about enough is just the beautiful, creative, whimsical side that lives hand in hand with some of the other darker traits. Probably part of what contributed to the difficulties with her diagnosis. My mom is an artist. She always has been an artist. And even in speaking with family members when we were trying to understand what she was struggling with, they said, she's always been whimsical and creative. She's always, loved to talk about fairies and gnomes and angels. But I think that that's part of the beauty of BPD, in the same way that, with splitting her relationships, there's this side of her that would get very angry, of course, but there was also this whimsical, creative side that I don't know that other kids get to experience and other grandkids get to experience. But my kids have amazing, fun memories of painting and playing with my mom, and I think that that is part of who she is as well with her BPD. During a very difficult time, because I had been at a work conference actually, and I got a phone call from a family member who I had not spoken to in many years, and they told me that they had received a call from the police and my mom was missing. And I was terrified, and I had to finish out my work and get on a plane. And I ended up taking 2 weeks off of work for my own mental health break to focus on not only helping a number of different officers and organizations around the country and ultimately in Canada where she was found, but I needed to keep myself whole because it was the most scared that I've ever been for her safety. And I had this epiphany, which was I felt very alone. I felt alone in my caregiving responsibilities. I was scared. I felt like the people I was talking to did not fully understand what I was going up against, and I actually got quite angry. And I decided that my anger and all of my experiences were best served for a broader community, because I just realized that even if I couldn't end up saving her, that I could use what I had learned to save other people. And so I found NAMI. I started doing some research on ways that I could volunteer and give back to this specific community. And at the same time, I also started emailing some people in my corporation. And I felt like I just really came to the realization I wanted to have a voice and be a part of, the community that gives voice to those who might not necessarily be able to bring it forward. I've actually had the amazing experience of hearing about so many more personal experiences that my friends and colleagues have had, which has made me feel closer to them. I actually met a partner at my firm through NAMI, and it was his wife who was participating in my local NAMI affiliate. And when I had said where I worked, she said her husband worked at the same place. Sadly, their daughter had died by suicide. And when we spoke to get to each other about our experiences at the firm, he said that one of the things that he did after his daughter passed away was that he got a tattoo in her honor with a semicolon. And he was rarely asked by colleagues and other partners about the tattoo. And it actually had become more of like a elephant in the room because it didn't seem like anyone wanted to talk about it. And so through that connection that we made through NAMI, we actually started doing a mental health forum at our firm together. He as his experience as a parent and me with my experience as the daughter of someone with mental illness. And we had the first 3-hour-long mental health forum at our firm, which led to sessions that have been attended by hundreds of people. What I'd like to say to the caregiving community is that I see you. So often when you're a caregiver, your job, so you feel, is to say yes to everything and to drop everything. And if you're like me, the sound of a phone ringing or a text beeping can, instill fear without even knowing that, whether it's something positive or something negative. And it is a heavy burden to bear. And I just feel like it's so powerful to say, I see you, I'm here for you. And even on the days that you don't feel like you're strong, you have the resilience that you didn't even know that you did. And that is a strength that can only come from really investing in yourself and finding community. NAMI has given me the chance to really take away even the idea that it's just mental health. It's about this idea that mind, body, and purpose allows us to be our authentic selves. And when we have a conversation and we include mental health as part of, that real understanding of what makes us whole and how we can be our best selves, it's a chance to really build stronger communities and coworkers and children, and just not leave beside this total other part that I think is actually the foundation of everything that makes each of us unique and special. NAMI means to me community and validation, feeling seen when, I have felt so alone and isolated, both in my experience as a caregiver and my lived experience. So NAMI means friends and help and power and validation and optimism, because you're surrounded by people who always bring light and gratitude despite their circumstances.